All right, it's 32 after. Thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Jeff Perry. I'm in the DPI Customer Services team, and joining me will be Keena Stringfellow, also from the Customer Services team. Your regular host, Adam, is on assignment this week, so Keena and I will be your co-hosts for today's user group. And the first thing you're going to notice is that the document looks a little different than what it has in the past, the agenda document. And that is because we are switching over from the old Google Docs format to a new Microsoft format. And we're going to have some information from Keena about that. Keena is actually going to be our guest speaker today as well to talk some more about the WISE community and how those things all work. So, good afternoon, Keena. Thank you for joining me as co host.
We got a Regis and Kathy Lee going on here.
So we do have our regular information in the agenda. It's going to look pretty similar to the way it did before, but it's going to be in this Microsoft Word format instead of the old Google Docs. So we do, of course, ask that you mute yourself during the presentation, and you still will be able to enter your. We're getting maybe a couple bugs worked out, but you still will be able to ahead of time enter your comments or your questions into the agenda prior to the meeting. That may or may not have happened today, but it will be something that you'll be able to do in the future. And then we'll, of course, take any questions that you have in the chat of the meeting today as the meeting goes on. We have our past meeting archive as we've always had it before. The meeting link is in the agenda as it's always been before. All of the other uh, amenities of the agenda are still there. We're just in this Microsoft format now instead of Google Docs. We invite you to join our WISE community, which is replacing our old Google-based currents. It went through a few different names. Google kept changing the service on us, and so we're getting some pretty negative feedback from folks. So we decided instead to do the WISE community through Microsoft Teams, and Keena is going to tell us a lot about that in just a few minutes and how, if you're not already a member of that, you can get set up. We have our KBA links in the agenda, our notifications, that those important messages that go out to WISE data customers. You can link to those from here. Um, we have our feedback. If you have ways that we can improve workflows or other suggestions for improving applications and that sort of thing, please give us feedback. We've got some clicks there. We have our FAFSA information, and we have our digital equity broadband calendar of events. That's a nice link to have in there. Training opportunities are noted on there as well. So please bookmark this new agenda, and we'll use this going forward. Now I will turn things over to Keena, and she will give you some great information. Keena, take it away.
Thanks, Jeff. Hello, everybody. Happy first day of school. I hope that if you had little ones to drop off, that you had enough Kleenex for all their tears, or maybe they just ran away from you and traded you in for a friend. I'm going to be providing you with some training today about Teams, Microsoft Teams, and how that connects to SharePoint. And I'm trying to get Microsoft to play nicely with me for PowerPoint sharing, but it is not. Aha, there we go. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, hopefully everyone else can as well. So thanks for attending today. I'm the technical writer on the customer services team, and this training is a little bit longer than I intended. So if you want me to stop at any point and finish up as a part 2 later on, just put any thoughts that you're having in the chat. If you have questions as we go, put those thoughts in the chat, and we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to talk to you today about some structural aspects of Microsoft Teams, how Teams compares and communicates with Microsoft SharePoint. And our agenda is right here. As a member of the WISE community, you are a guest member to this Microsoft Teams group. And it's easier to say a Teams group than a Teams team because it's a little bit redundant. But if you're not a member of Microsoft, excuse me, if you're not a member of the WISE community, I did put something in the chat earlier on that with a link to give you instructions on how to join. And then keep in mind that there is a bit of a timing issue, that it's not as instant as somebody sharing a Google Doc link. So there might be anything from a 10-minute wait to a 1-week wait with the way that we have our system set up to add new users and the access that you can get right away. So that will be something we'll go into a little bit. I'm going to start by talking about notification settings on Teams, and that we have a file available for you in the WISE Community Teams files. The first line here on this slide is hyperlinked, and so you can access that whenever you need to. This document has been around the longest of any of the documents that we've made and saved into the Microsoft Teams files, probably about April of 2024, when the WISE community was still pretty new. I apologize if this information is redundant for you, but I will also show you closer to the end of the training where this document lives on the Teams/SharePoint drive. The steps themselves to setting your notifications are not that tricky. I'm sure that you all know how to adjust your settings on your phone, on your TV, on your own personal laptop, your work laptop, what have you. But this is just a matter of showing you exactly where to go. So the previous slide had the text or verbal information, and so this is more of the visual learning, which hopefully between these two slides, you'll be able to figure out where to go to change your settings. You're going to start by looking in that upper right-hand corner of the Teams screen near where your avatar is. Your avatar might just look like your initials. It might be a photo. This screenshot example has a smiley face icon. And adjacent to the smiley face icon is these 3 horizontal dots, which we call the More menu. The one that you want to click is indicated by a red box. There are also 2 other More menus on any given Teams screen, and those are indicated by red circles. So you'll see another one in the upper right-hand corner, like kind of by the X and the minimize and the maximize buttons. And then there's another one on the left side panel. It's kind of like a navigation panel. So the one that you want to indicate or to set your specific settings is going to be the one by your avatar. When you click that More menu, a drop-down menu will appear, and you're going to want to click Settings, which has the gear icon, and then your screen will change to the Settings screen. And the screenshot on this slide is supposed to represent that. It looks a little bit goofy because the left side panel is not as long. The settings screen is a scrolling screen. So I just took a scrolling screenshot, and that's why the screen looks like it's this funky L-shaped. But once you're on the settings screen, you'll see that the navigation panel on the left has a bunch of options. And then as you would scroll down that settings screen, you would see all of the different options. So you could start with general and go through each of the items in that submenu. If you are looking specifically for like notifications and activity, that's the one that you're going to want to use for that. It's actually called activity, I think, and notifications. And then there's another one underneath it that you might want to pay close attention to, and that is the appearance and accessibility. So if you have a specific format that you would need for your vision, if you use dark mode, you'll notice my screenshots are white text on a black screen. I use dark mode because if I don't, I get goofy migraines. Those are probably the 2 most important, but there's other really interesting screens on the settings that you can choose, like language interpretation, and if you want to use closed captions or transcripts. So that's where you would go to set your settings for Teams. When your settings are all taken care of the way that you want them to be, you're going to want to get back to your main screen by clicking the back button, which is kind of on the left side of the search bar, or you could click the Teams icon in the far left corner, or you could also click on the Teams button in that left side icon panel. So that's where your notifications live. Another aspect of Teams is you setting your profile and your pronouns. So to do that, you're going to start in a similar way. You're going to go to that more menu next to your avatar or your initials. You might not have like a photo, you might not be able to change it to a photo, since everyone in the WISE community that accesses this training is an external member. There's going to be limitations on how you can access the DPI Teams platform, just because there's different rules for internal users and external users. So if you have any issues setting your pronouns and they're not reflecting your identity accurately, please send us a help ticket and we can help you adjust those pronouns, because we want you to feel represented and safe in how you are reflected in our WISE community. So once you have your profile card opened from your avatar settings, you're going to click this little button that's right underneath your name, and it will say plus pronouns. And so Teams can only accept, or excuse me, Microsoft as a whole can only accept pronouns in the English language. So as long as it's a combination of she, her, he, him, or they, those pronouns will be available to you in whatever order you see fit. And then don't forget to click save so that they can be applied to your Teams profile. Another aspect of Teams that we're going to talk about today is the difference between channels and chats. And it's a little bit of a rubber baby buggy bumpers situation, so I'll apologize in advance for how many times I'm going to say the words channels and chats in the next 5 minutes. Each team is equipped with channels, and channels are like different ways to focus a conversation, because a topic of a Teams group might be rather large. For example, we have another Teams group that's dedicated to our annual WISE Data Conference. Well, there's a lot of different parts to the WISE Data Conference. There's the venues, there's the sessions, there's presenters. And so each of those topics underneath that umbrella topic has a channel. When you type something in a channel, that is called a post. And a post is visible to all members of the Microsoft Teams group. So right now we have around 600, over 600 Microsoft, oh my goodness, we have over 600 WISE community members on the WISE community Teams group. So if you post something, everybody can see that, 600 plus people can see that. The other way to communicate on Teams is with a chat, and that's much more like texting. And it's private, but notice that the word private is in parentheses. So there's parts that are private and parts that are not. This screen is showing you what a post looks like. So this is a standard screenshot of the Microsoft Teams platform, where you have that icon panel on the far left, you have the navigation panel in the middle left, and then the right 2/3 of the screen is where you're going to see the activity. So the major 2/3 portion of this screenshot is showing you where the activity is. We're showing you that this is the WISE Community Teams group, and in that Teams group, we're on the general channel. And then you can see next to the general panel that's above the smiley face with the glasses on, that there's posts, and then there's files, and posts has a little purple underline. So that's what we're looking at, is the posts. The smiley face icon represents a friendly DPI staff member who created a post on Act 20 Screener on August 19th. And then underneath that, you can see that there's a thumbs up. You can react with emojis to a post if you want to. You don't need to feel obligated to do that, but it's nice for us as DPI members who make those posts because it lets us know that someone's reading them. And then underneath that is a response from an anonymous WISE community member. And you can tell that because their avatar is different than a DPI member's avatar, and they were asking a question about the post. And then you, as a user, as a member of the WISE community, you will kind of always have your own little avatar underneath the latest post, kind of waiting at the ready, just like that popsicle that gets lost in the back of the freezer at the end of summer that is waiting for somebody to find it so that it can be eaten before it turns into sludge. Your post marker is always there, and you can reply to a post or you can start a new post, as indicated by that purple button at the very bottom. So this is how you would read a post or create a post, and then posts can be made on any of the channels that you would see listed in that navigation panel underneath the main WISE community logo. I'm going to take a brief drink of water. Okay, this is a different screenshot. If you notice again on that far left icon panel that there's a square highlighting that this is the chat screen. Chats are a little bit different than posts because they can be associated with meetings. They can be sent to an individual. You can chat with yourself. You can chat to a friend. You can chat to multiple friends. So like if you know that there's people in neighboring LEAs that use a similar sys vendor, you could maybe make your own private chat for people with that sys vendor, and then you can ask questions specific to PowerSchool or Skyward or Infinite Campus or what have you. And then people can respond because they're using that same platform, and that's a pretty handy thing. You can do all kinds of things with your chats. It's a pretty versatile screen. You can pin a chat. You might notice that on that middle panel that I have two chats that are pinned. One of them is the chat that the customer services team uses regularly, daily. That's how we log into work and say, hi, I'm here, or whoops, I have a dentist appointment, I'm leaving right now, or whatever. And then the other chat that I have pinned is a chat to myself. And this, I kind of use it like a digital post-it note. Kind of handy. And then all of my other chats are listed just in a gigantic scrolling list from most recent on top to least recent on the bottom. I can mark a chat as unread. I can pop it out into a new window. I can pin it. I can mute it. I can ask the chat to notify me when the person I'm chatting with is available if they're not available at the moment. And I can hide a chat. The one thing I cannot do with a chat is delete a chat, and that is because DPI is subject to public records request laws. This set of laws applies to every post that is made within our WISE Community Teams channel and every chat. So we do encourage you to communicate on the platform, but we caution you to stay on topic or on message, however you want to work that. Try not to get off on tangents. Remember that this is a professional platform and that it's a shared platform and that it's a platform that is being hosted by a state government agency. So try not to gossip with that water cooler stuff on the Teams community, the WISE community. So again, this slide just kind of covers everything that I've mentioned and made visible on the two screenshot slides. I don't think I missed anything. So I'll move on here. There are 5 separate channels on our WISE community. The general channel is the one that I've been featuring so far. We ask that DPR staff are the only members that make posts on here, and we welcome our members to reply to a chat. But if you want to make your own chat, basically ask us a question, then we would ask that you would make that more topic centered and place it on one of the 4 non-general chats. The first one is the Civil Rights Data Collection Focused Channel, or CRDC. Members would create posts and DPI staff would apply unless we have a topic that is specific to the CDRC, and then DPI staff can also post. There's one for WISE Dash that includes public portal and WISE Dash for districts. We have one for WISE Data, and I would go ahead and lump WISE ID questions on there too. I know earlier, not earlier this week, this is the earliest day for this week, but probably middle to the end of last week, there were some issues with WISE ID. And so that would have been the perfect channel to post questions about, hey, I can't make a new WISE ID like I normally do, what's up? And then we also have one for the WISE staff collection. So those are the channels that are available. And again, each of those channels will have posts, but chats can be about anything and they don't have to be specific to a channel. Did I just skip one? I did. All right, so if you are wanting to set notifications and activity, you can do that specific to each of the channels. So if you are the person in your agency that deals with civil rights data collection, you're going to want to make sure that your notifications and activity are on for that channel. But if you don't pay attention to any of the other topics, you can quiet those channels so that your computer isn't beeping and squeaking at you all day long and interrupting your flow. Slide 16 gives you the verbal directions on how to do that. And you're going to want to make sure that you save. There's not always a save button. So if you see the purple save button, make sure you click it. Otherwise, those settings won't apply. And then slide 17 here goes through those same steps in a visual platform. So I'm going to start with the image on the left, and you'll notice that now I'm in that navigation panel and I'm clicking the More menu specific to the general channel. So there's a little number 1 indicated there. I'm going to click that More menu. Then I'm going to go to the channel notifications, which has a little bell icon by it. Once I click that channel notifications, a pop-up window is going to show up. And then you have all kinds of options there. You can include when somebody replies to a message, if somebody messages you specifically, there's just a whole series. You can scroll through all of the notification settings, pick what you want. The difference between banner and feed is that this purple image here with the smiley face wearing the sunglasses, this is a banner indicator, and that means that it's just going to pop up. Mine pops up in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, and it like hovers over whatever is there for a few seconds. So that's what it'll do if you select banner and feed. You can see the banner and feed in the smallest black screenshot in the lower left corner, lower right corner, has a check mark. And so whatever one you click will have the check mark, and that's what it will do. Otherwise, if it's only in the feed, then that's where it's going to appear much like it would here on your chat screen. Nope, sorry, here on the activity screen. So if you don't want that little banner to pop up, that's something that you can try. Maybe you like the banner, maybe you don't like the banner. I just realized today I can change the sound for them. So there's all kinds of things that you can do for accessibility and preferences. Don't forget to save. If you maybe you adjusted your settings and you're still not receiving the messages that you want, make sure that your computer system setting is agreeing with your Microsoft Teams application settings. Make sure that your volume is up. I have experienced that. I'm like, I'm not getting any notifications. And that's because I had my headset plugged in and I wasn't wearing my headset, so I couldn't hear any of my beeps and squeaks that I needed to. Sometimes we're just a victim of humanity, aren't we? Otherwise, we just kind of went through how to change the activity settings. So you might want to try adjusting them, toggling on and off for different features to make sure that the way that Teams is notifying you is appropriate to what works for your brain and your eyes. Okay, we're in the home stretch here, folks. The last section of our Teams training today is covering how Teams and SharePoint really integrate well together. Kind of the whole Microsoft Office 365, which is what I'm referencing anytime there's this MSO 365, that's just the Microsoft Office suite. They're doing a really nice job of integrating their applications so that, like I can open a PowerPoint within Teams, or I can open it as a browser, or I can open it as a desktop application. And so they're really trying to like weave the integration of one application into the others. And this works especially true for Teams and SharePoint. SharePoint is like a Google Drive. Specifically, SharePoint is like a shared Google Drive or a team Google Drive. So if you're on a continuous improvement team, that group of people might have their own Google Drive. That group of people could have their own SharePoint drive. Any team that you are a member of on Microsoft will have a SharePoint associated with it. In our WISE community team group, the only channel that you will find files or folders or documents living under is the general channel. If you go to the other channels, you'll see an option for files. Like if you're looking, so there's 2 screenshots on the slide. The one on the left is got the black screen. And you'll notice that there's the WISE community icon, then there's the word general, and then posts is kind of a dollar color, and then files is a bright white, and it has the purple underline. So the files will be there on all 5 of the WISE community channels, but there won't be anything there. It's just an inherently built-in structure so that people have options, right? Americans like options, people like options. The image on the right, which has the standard screen with the black text on a white screen, this is SharePoint. And so you can see that they look almost identical. They have the same icons, they have the same listings. So a SharePoint drive and the Teams files should be identical. And I can demo that for you if you like. Sometimes it's easier to see it live. Let me know if that's what you want, but I'm getting close to the end here and I don't want to keep droning on if you have questions that you need to get to. Whoopsie, sorry. So what happens when you can't access our WISE community? That's probably what you most want to know. This is something that we learned just last week or maybe a week or so ago. And the problem was that a person was added as a guest member to the WISE community teams group, but they ran into an error message that said, looks like the team or channel you're looking for does not exist. Please contact the team owner or try again later. And you'll notice on this screenshot that the guest user initials AR had 2 options. One of them is highlighted here in yellow, and that one is the DPI production guest platform or account. And the other one was a private or more business related account, which was probably associated to their school email address. So if you're coming across this message, the way to troubleshoot it is by selecting the DPI production guest account. If you can't log in or see updates in the Teams chat or postings, a simpler solution follows that one, and you might just need to try clearing your cache and cookies on your browser. Pardon me. There's also a Microsoft help document posted here. I have found also that no matter what browser you're using, if you use Chrome or Edge or whatever, doing a simple browser search for, how do I access blah, blah on Teams, the Microsoft help pages are actually very helpful. So I would highly recommend using those if you haven't yet. Other common things that we receive help tickets on for troubleshooting WISE community is that you can read the posts, you can create posts, you can chat, but you can't access the SharePoint. And this is something I mentioned earlier on, that we're constantly adding new members. We get help tickets every day. And so when external members want to join our WISE community, they get placed on an add me list, right? Like there's just a listing that our IT department has, and they recognize you as an external person from DPI, outside of DPI. And then on Tuesdays at around 3 o'clock, then that whole list of everybody that has been added over the past 7 days gets uploaded. And then you'll get full access. So if you only have partial access, if you join today, plug, you should get access like almost immediately after the user group is done. And that's kind of why we did that Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Because we do get a large batch of people adding during the user groups. And if you join tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, you'll have to wait until next week, Tuesday, to get that full access. And then the last troubleshooting isn't really a big deal. It's something I think I'll come back to next time. It just has to do with different browsers and how Microsoft plays nice with Microsoft, but Microsoft doesn't always play nice with Google. So that is my rapid speed Teams introduction training. If there are other specific things that you want information on, please let us know. This Teams group is for all of us, and so it has to work for all of us. And we are happy to provide you with any kind of training that you might need. So I will take a breather, stop presenting my slides.
All right, thanks very much, Kina. And if folks would like to join the WISE community, if you're not already a member, put your name and email address in the chat, please. And we have operators are standing by to grab that information and enter you in. And since we are on a Tuesday today, the job that Kina mentioned will actually run tonight, so you should get that full access very, very shortly. So if you'd like to join the community, please put your name and email address in the chat, and we will make sure that that happens. And we will move on. We'll come back to Kina in a moment or two for the webpage updates, but give her a little breather and a chance to sip her water. We'll move on to our WISE ID and WISE staff update, which will come to us from Josh.
Yeah, 1 second here. All right. So on August 27th, we released refinements to our WISE ID match review process, removed an extra page at the end, and then now allow users to navigate directly to the next potential match without going back to the main match review page. We updated the guide for that. Kina had done that previously, so that link is there if you would like to view that. And then with that release, we did accidentally release 2 bugs, which we fixed on the 29th. The bugs were the match review page. When creating a new WISE ID was not allowing you to do that. And then the person upload button was broken for district users. So we fixed that as well. So those are both fixed as of the 29th. Apologize for that. And then just a reminder, I covered it last time, but just in case there's new people, the WISE Staff 24-25 timeline has been posted on the reporting page. And then the assignment code changes have also been posted on the WISE Staff file layouts and templates page. And those have also been sent to the vendor. So the vendor should be making changes for you for this collection year. And just kind of a notice, I will be transitioning to another role so this month. So Jennifer Janik will be taking over as product owner for the WISE ID WISE Staff systems. So just be aware of that. And Jennifer will be setting up the WISE Staff user group meetings that will start in October that I used to host. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Josh. We don't have any WISE ID, WISE staff questions yet, but if you do have a question for Josh, please put that in the chat if you would. And we will move on next to our WISE Dash update, which I believe will come to us from Susan today.
Hello. Yeah, the only thing I really have for WISE Dash is that we added the national student ranking to the ACT statewide and pre-ACT secure student detail like student profiles, student detail dashboards. The team right now is busily working on getting assessments out to WISE Public, as well as beginning preparations for the snapshot. That's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. It's a short update, but there's a lot of work behind it, I'm guessing. So thanks very much, Susan, to you and your team for that. Let's move back up and we will talk about web page updates, and I will turn it back over to Kina for that update.
Thank you. I have some pages for you. Okay, I'm seeing the red outline, which means I should be sharing my screen. Okay, there were some pages that just had some broken links. Those were repaired and should be fully functioning. If you ever do come across a 404 error message, know that those do get scoured weekly, and we try to fix them as quick as we can. The first day of school, last day of school data element page has been updated for WISE Data Portal content, and that includes a new screenshot of where you can locate your first day school, last day of school dates on WISE Data Portal. So they're on the agency contact screen within WISE Data Portal, and you can access your agency contact screen from that upper right-hand corner where your LEA username is. And once you get that screen on, you'll have to scroll down past your agency contacts until you see this secondary agencies banner. And then make sure you're looking at the right school year, because the school year filter will show the dates by school year. There was additional data on this data element page pertaining to school directory, which was supposed to be displaying first day of school, last day of school information, but there were some glitches in how the data was getting pushed from WISE Data Portal into school directory. And so until those issues are all ironed out, we're just going to keep this first day of school, last day of school data element WISE Data Portal focused. And then another update on here is that in the FAQ section, we changed a little bit of the bullets that are displaying. And we're aware that a lot of schools don't submit their roster data until January. They wait until after the snapshot is done. And DPI is going to slowly start encouraging LEAs to change that pattern and send their roster data sooner. So I wanted to remind everybody that there is a roster info help and FAQ page that lives underneath the WISE data left side menu under the help section, and that there's a new section on this roster info help and FAQ page that says when should LEAs submit their roster data. And right now it's a little bit generic. It just repeats the same content that was posted on the FDS LDS data element page. And there is a conversation occurring for what more specific information we can add on here. But in the meantime, that's just a bug or a seed I wanted to plant. I would rather plant a seed than a bug. The next data element page that was updated is the expected transfer response page. Overall, the information is still the same. I just wanted to point out that in the FAQs that the response for yes is actually the letter D, Delta, not the letter Y, Yankee. For yes, but discontinued schooling, the D is for discontinued. And the text previously had a Y there for yes instead of a D for discontinued. So that got updated. This next page aligns with what Josh was sharing about the WISE-ID user guide. The match review section has been updated, and then there's also information in here about the Student Education Organization Responsibility Association, more conveniently called the SEORA record. And a SEORA record is for a student who is below compulsory age. So they're leaving the Birth to 3 program and they're being evaluated under indicator 11 or whether or not they will qualify to receive special education services. They're too young in their age to receive an enrollment record, but they do need to have some kind of a record to stick their data to. And so that is the SEORA record. And when a student is evaluated under indicator 11, which is timely initial evaluation, whether the student is determined eligible for special ed services or not eligible for special education services, the SEORA record needs to be associated with a WISE ID. And if the student is found not eligible for special education, they should maintain that WISE ID. This was a new thing that we were getting ironed out as we're switching over from having special ed information being entered into the special ed portal versus entering it into WISE data and pushing it into the portal so that LEAs don't have to enter the data twice. So if you're in a situation like this where a student was not quite school age yet, they hadn't hit their 3rd birthday yet, they could still have a WISE ID. If they don't qualify for special ed services, do not delete that WISE ID. That was a big thing that was discovered. And so we're hoping to communicate that to everybody. Another one was the staff mandatory contacts data element page. This one is also still kind of in flux. The big question on this page is about the public school requirement for having a school counselor. This page does need to be updated. It should not say guidance counselor. The actual license name and the job position is a school counselor, not a guidance counselor. So the indication or the guidance for this required position is that a school district, a public school district, needs to have at least one school counselor posted at the district level. And we're aware that school counselors are called school counselors because they service the children in a school, not for the entire district, right? A high school can have 4 to 6, can have lots of school counselors. You know, they're usually like in my son's high school, they're separated by alphabet. So there's at least 4 school counselors just in the high school alone. So we're aware that there's not going to be a school counselor at your district level or your agency level. And we don't want this person to be like the, a director, maybe, a special ed director is sometimes the person who's in charge of school counselors along with special education teachers. So we want the LEAs to decide which school counselor would kind of be the ambassador or the liaison that would receive any kind of communications from school directory that are pertinent to school counselors, and then that school counselor would pass that information on to all of the other school counselors. So that guidance is coming. I just haven't had time to update this data element page yet today, but that will be updated on here shortly. Whew. If only my words counted as steps, I would be at like 3 miles so far today. The attendance data element page was updated, and it has a new swanky submenu. If you come down to the FAQs, details, and points to note, you can now hyperlink yourself to different sections of the page if you're looking for something specific to runaways or summer EBT money or students who were suspended. These FAQs have been reorganized into these sections to hopefully provide you with all the information that we had about one topic in a closer location. And then, like Susan mentioned about the snapshot, we know it's right around the corner. And so we do our best every year to update our snapshot preparation guidance webpage. The December snapshot, of course, it's what's coming next. And so snapshot's going to be on December 10th. We have updated the screenshot here showing a visual representation of what data is all collected in certain categories. And then we have this accordion so that each column on this table is represented with an accordion. So if this is previous year discipline is going to be here. And the content is listed also in a table. The reason for that is because it was the easiest way for me to delineate public and choice versus public only. And it's going to be still a bit of scrolling for you, because in order to make tables screen reader accessible, I can only add one piece of data in each cell on the table to make it easier for screen readers to relay that information to persons with other vision than me. So hopefully this is easy for users to navigate. It's different than it was last year. If you have feedback on anything, always feel free to send us a submit feedback message. And I'll pass it back to you, Jeff.
Thanks very much, Kina. I'm going to share my screen back here. I was trying to answer a question there while you were talking. I didn't quite get it done, but well, we'll get to that when we get to that. Do we have a WISE data update? I don't see anything in the agenda, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not an update. So
there were no releases today from the collections team, so nothing.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So now we will move on to the Q&A. And we have a question from Georgia at Abbotsford District. This question is referring to how do we get our information ready for being uploaded into Ames Web Plus? Where is the school information pulling from? I don't think I was sharing my screen. There, now I think I am. A communication about this will be going out shortly. We did have one that went out around a week ago, which you can look up. I'll show you in a moment how you can look that up on the in the knowledge base article section of our help, WISE Data Help. But an additional communication will be going out shortly to hopefully clarify some of the questions. But basically, 2024-25 student information is going to be synced to the Ames Web Plus system from WISE Data on a nightly basis. That is the plan. If a student is going to be administered a screener, they have to have a valid WISE Data enrollment. That is the huge piece. So make sure that your WISE Data enrollments are in place in advance of when your district plans on doing the screening. That is the biggest piece, and sooner is better if you are going to be part of the fall screening process, especially because if there are any errors or other issues that would need to be resolved, the sooner that we're getting started on that, the better, right? So, so that is the main piece, is that in order for that student to be given a screener, they must have a valid WISE Data enrollment in place. So that's the biggest piece. Another piece of this communication that is going to be going out shortly, and I believe it will be later this week, if I can knock on my Formica desk here in place of wood, is going to be related to roster and making sure that the student and teacher connection is in place. So we have the student section association and the staff section association in roster, and part of what the system is going to need is contained therein. So we are going to have those details in that email that's going to be going out shortly as well. On the DPI website, in any on any page, there's a search box up in the upper right, and if you type WISE Data Help into that search box, and then click on the first link that comes up, you'll come to our WISE Data Help page. This is not a bad thing to have bookmarked, by the way, if you don't already. One of the training and supporting links is the knowledge base articles, or the KBAs. And when we send out a mass email to all districts or all choice schools or everybody, we include that in the notice section So if you hit yes and apply that to notices, you'll see we have our Act 20 screener email that was sent out earlier a couple weeks ago in August. So you can review that at your leisure as well. And then, like I said, there will be a new email with more details that will be coming out shortly, probably later this week. And when that does go out, it will be archived in this exact same spot. So if for some reason or another you don't receive that email, I would imagine it would go out to all WISE data contacts, but you'd be able to find it in that knowledge base articles section as well. So I hope that answers your question, Georgia. We have a question from Josie from the Jefferson District. I have a question regarding Ames Web Plus student rostering as well. I know there's been a lot. What is DPI uploading as the class UID? I want to make sure I use the same information in my teacher rostering so they are associated with the student rosters coming from WISE. I'm assuming it would be the section indicator, but I want to make sure I don't create extra work for myself either. I don't want to create extra work for you either, Josie. I believe that that would be one of the details that will be coming up in the email that I just mentioned. That'll be going out later in the week. I know that there's going to be something to do with the Student Section Association and Staff Section Association in roster, but I don't have the details yet. I was just made aware of this not too long before this meeting began, and I don't have all the details yet, but I know that they will be coming soon. So I apologize for that, but please look for that email that's going to be going out. And then if we have any questions after that, we can make sure that we address those and make sure that you're not creating extra work for yourself, because nobody wants that. So please bear with us as we get that email prepared and sent out this week, hopefully. And then Georgia had a follow-up question. What about the section information? And that's the piece of it that I've not fully been trained on yet. So hopefully by the time we meet next week for our next WISE user group meeting next Tuesday, hopefully we'll have all that information and be able to address those questions in more detail. And I apologize, I'm not able to do that right now. We have a question from Melanie at the Muskego Norway District. If two districts, oh good, we're moving on to a different topic. So I'll let me pause for a moment and get out of Act 20 mode and into a different mode for Melanie's question. If two districts are sharing a student, how does that work? I know this has been discussed before, but I don't see anything in the uncommon scenarios. The student would be in one district one week and one on the other. Also, the student is open enrolled into our district. Okay. These situations are unfortunate and usually occur with the real young kiddos. And a lot of times it has to do with a court order pertaining to custody, and a court will determine in their wisdom that a student should attend one district one week and another district the following week. If it is not a court order, if this is some sort of agreement that was arrived to solely by the parents, you as a district are not obligated to do that week after the other week switch. But if it is mandated by a court, then we have to abide by that as best as we can. It makes WISE data reporting a mess, I will admit. What we suggest, if at all possible, is that the two districts enter an agreement as far as when each district is going to do WISE data reporting. If you want to enroll and exit the student each week, you are able to do that. The system will allow it. If you want to create longer intervals in your agreement with the other district to make it easier for reporting purposes, you may do that. There is a page about this on the DPI website, and I am blanking right now as to where it is. Maybe Kina can help me with that. But like I said, these situations do come up. They are ordered by courts from time to time, and they do make reporting, if not a nightmare, at least very difficult. So that is our suggestion, is that the two districts get together and decide when they're going to do the reporting, at what intervals, and just adhere to that. And whatever intervals that you decide should be okay for WISE data reporting, as long as you both agree that that's the way you're going to do it. And then, like I said, if it's not a court order, if it is just the parents that want to do it that way, you do not have to abide by that if it's not a court order. So I hope that answers your question, Melanie, and good luck with that. And if issues or questions come up while you and the other district are trying to put that together, let us know in a help ticket, and we'll do our best to help you out with that. So tricky situation, I understand. And I think we may be caught up on questions now. If once again, if you have not yet signed up for the WISE community, please put your name and email address in the chat, and we will get you set up. All that great stuff that Kina showed us earlier can be yours if you put your name and email in the chat. And we do have a couple minutes left, so if we have one more question, burning question on someone's mind, we can take that. So again, join the WISE community if you haven't. Look for that Act 20 email information that's going to be going out shortly. And we will now be meeting weekly for our WISE user group meeting. So there will be another meeting Tuesday the 10th at 1:30 p.m. and every Tuesday thereafter as we get closer and closer to the December 10th snapshot. If you are going to be participating in the fall screening, make sure that your WISE data enrollments for 24-25 are being submitted, and that every student, I believe it's K4 through grade 3, that will be given the screener has a valid WISE data enrollment, and then we'll get you the roster related information later in that email that I mentioned. Looks like that's it for today. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. We will talk to you again next week. And oh, of course, just as I said that, a question came in quickly here from Carrie. I am working on the Indicator 11 reporting for 23-24 school year and have a student who should be pulling to the report. I've contacted Skyward about the situation and need to clarify with DPI on the information that is off. In our SIS, we have a no testing need checkbox with the date of the notice of no testing needed in the system. This is done when we have information provided to the district and no testing will be done in the district. We indicate the date that the paperwork was completed and sent to parents. This then would not have a date for the following in the system: evaluation permission date, and district receive date. Is there a way to get this information to pull to the Indicator 11 reporting without having to change things here in our process for the consent information? Came from Carrie at Mosney. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I am going to take that though away, and I will get the answer for you, Melanie, Carrie rather, and I will put it in an email to you. I'm going to have to do a little bit of asking with our DPI special ed team, I think, with that, but I will get that answer to you, Carrie. So thanks for that question. And thanks everyone for attending, and we'll get together next Tuesday at 1:30 And I hope you have a wonderful 24-25 school year. And we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, everybody.